Welcome back to How to Build a Blog with Laravel. This is the series where we take absolute beginners from knowing nothing about Laravel to building up this really cool advanced blogging application. We're going in super deep detail, and in this video series, we're actually going to be finishing up the CRUD of our posts model, or our post controller. So CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. We've already finished the create, we've finished the read in the last video, and now it's time to move on to update. The update is going to consist of two parts. First of all, we need to display a form and pull data from the database into that form so that we can see what's currently there. And the second part will actually be updating the database after we submit the form, okay? So there's two different parts here. We're gonna work on the first one in this video. It shouldn't take too long because it's pretty simple and there's some cool tricks we're gonna learn along the way. And then in the next video, we'll finish it off by saving it into the database, which again, you guys are already getting the hang of and we'll probably move pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll see you guys in a second. All right, so I'm J.A. Curtis. You can call me Alex. And again, like I mentioned in this video, we're going to be starting on updating our post model with as part of our CRUD that we've been working on. So we've already finished the first two, create and read, and now it's time to work on update. Let's go ahead and just open our project and get started on this. So for those of you guys that are following along, you should already have the project available. If you don't, you can go ahead to the previous video, download the resources in the description. It'll go to GitHub and you can download the files. I've got all these files saved in a folder called sites. So, actually I'm already in the folder. It's right here, so blog. But if you go, if I'm on the root and I went to my sites folder, inside my site folder, I have another project folder called blog, and that's where all of my Laravel stuff is being saved, and you can see that right here. So let's go ahead and open this up in a text editor. I'm going to be using Sublime today, but you can use whatever you want. Okay, and let's head on over to our apps. We're going to our controller here. So apps, HTTP, controllers, and post controller. And you can see kind of what we've already done. Again, in the last video where we worked on the index, so we could see all of our videos. Now, if I pull over our previous, what we've been working on up to this point, I just want to get you guys up to date. You can see the server's not running, so I'm going to go ahead and open a new tab in my terminal, and we're going to make sure we're in the blog project and then run PHP artist serve to launch our local server. All this should be a refresh to you guys. We already know how to do all of this, so that's why I'm going pretty fast. If you're lost, go ahead and you'll probably want to watch the previous videos. Okay, so we got this running. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. Sure enough, we get exactly what we wanted. We have a table view of all of our all of the posts that we have in our database. Okay, so these are all the posts that we have, and we have links to edit and view each of these pages. So if we currently click view, we get a little thing where we can kind of see what this is right here. We have a button to edit or delete these. We have a little bit of data on these as well as the post data, okay? Now, one of our goals here is to have an edit, so we can click edit and we can then change the title, change the body and stuff like that, and then save that back into the database. So that's currently what we're working on. We already have the ability to see individual blog posts. We just want to be able to take what we have right here and add the ability to edit them, okay? That's what we're going to be doing now, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to head back over to Sublime, our text editor, and just scroll on down. You can see that we've already been working on index, we've worked on create, we've stored it, we've showed one single page. This is the view that we just looked at to show one individual post. And now you can see that because we've automatically generated a CRUD controller, we also have edit, update, and destroy. And these are the three final functions that we need to do to finish off our CRUD. As part of the update of CRUD, the U in CRUD, that usually consists of both edit and update. And just think of these are going to be very similar to create and store. When we scroll back up and we were working on the C for CRUD, the create, it actually involved us, first of all, having a form available through the create function. This is a GET request that then generates a form. So that's kind of the first part of our create, but then we had to be able to save that form and then submit it and store it into the database. And so the store was the second half of the of our create. Okay, we couldn't really create without being able to store it in the database, but store was a post request, and it was a different it's a different function in our controller. And we have the exact same thing going on down here. If we scroll down here, edit is basically going to be where we go when we have a GET request to edit a post. What we want to be able to do is show a form with the data filled into the form. So for example, we'll have a field for our title and a form field for our body of our of the post as well. And we want the actual data that's currently in the database automatically filled into the form, and then we could basically make changes if we needed and then resave it back into the database. And when we submit that save request, it's going to come in through a post request. Okay, so HTTP post request, and it'll submit to the update function. Okay, so the update is going to be how we store it back into the database, and the edit is going to be the function we use to basically display a form. We're going to have to grab the current post from the database, and then we'll use that to automatically fill the form. Okay, so that's what we need to do here with the edit. So let's go ahead and do that. So I always like to write comments of what we're going to be doing in this function. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find the post in the database and save it as a variable, right? All right, so we're going to save that as a variable. Then what do we need to do? We basically just need to return the view and pass in that information so that then we can automatically fill it into the appropriate places of the view. Okay, so that's pretty much all we need to do. Previously created. That's basically it. So it's kind of very similar to some of the other ones that we've been doing. Now we already know how to basically pull something from the database, and we do know, if we see up here, that we have an ID available to us, and that's going to be submitted as part of the URL. If we come back over to our terminal, you can see here that I've already got our routes listed. And for those of you guys that need that don't have this up, you can do PHP artisan route and then :list. Click enter, and you should get this exact same thing. So you can see here that when we do edit, that's this thing down here. We're going to go to post / and then the post ID number and then /edit. Okay, so this ID number gets pulled in right here and stored as ID, so we can reference it with the single the ID variable. So what we do, just like we do with everything else, we need to create a variable, and we'll set that variable equal to our model, and our model is called post. And then just like we did when we wanted to find an individual post up here, we can do the exact same thing. We want to find a post by the ID number, so find is perfect way to do that. We'll pass in the ID number, which is stored as the variable here, ID, and then that will find that post by the ID number. Next thing we need to do is we need to pass it into our, we need to pass the view, or return the view, sorry, and then pass in the post variable. So return view, and then we're going to go, we need to do post.edit. That's going to be the name of our view. And then we're also going to want to pass in, we'll do with post, because we want to pass in the post and set it equal to our post variable. Pretty simple. That's all we need to do for the controller. Let's head on over to the view. I'm going to go ahead and save this file. And just to kind of open up, I'm going to open up our, this right here, is I'm actually going to set the kind of the user interface for our edit to be the exact same thing as the view. Okay, we're basically just going to put right here where this title is, instead of actually having a text, like, you know, this is like a paragraph tag, or this is an H1 actually. Instead of having H1 tags, we're just going to put like a text field here, and then this area will be like a text area that will automatically be filled. So what we can do is just copy the user interface we've already created for view, and then just we'll convert a little bit for edit as needed. So let's head back over to our project. And obviously to do this, we need to go to our resources, views, and then posts. And we're going to create a new post, or a new view inside this posts folder. We're going to right click and click new file, and we're going to save this as edit. edit.blade.php. And of course, we're just keeping with the convention that we already did. And remember that down here we said that there's a view called post.edit, and that means that there's a view in a folder called posts named edit.blade.php. So we're just following that convention. All right, back up here, you guys should get the hang of this. We're using templates, right? So we have a main template file and we want to access that. So we say extends main. We also know that inside that template file, we have a section called title, right? So we need to fill out our title, and we're going to set title equal to the vertical bar, and we'll say edit blog post. And then we're going to need one last section, and that section's called content, and this is the main content of our blog post. We can go ahead and just click stop at the end or end section, whichever you guys prefer. Okay, so that's going to be, and then inside of here is where we're going to put our raw content. Now, the first thing I want to do is, because I said I wanted to mimic the user interface of the view, let's go ahead and open up that show, the original view, so post.show. Let's open that up and we'll just copy it over and then kind of work around it. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly save this file, and then I'm going to open up show. I'm going to do a quick tip for you guys. If you're using Sublime, you can come up here to view, layouts, and then do column 2. This will create another column over here. And if you have your cursor in this column over here on the side and you click show, what you're going to get is you'll actually pull these side by side like this. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this entire section inside of content. I'm going to copy it and paste it over here into our content for edit. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and save it, and then we're going to close down the show, and I'll just come back over to one single thing just for clarity to make things easier for us as we're working in this tutorial. I actually generally work with 2 columns though when I'm actually coding by myself. All right, so we've already got our row, and we see here that we've got the title of the post is an H1 tag, and we have the post body submitted over here. And then we've got a second column right here, which just displays some metadata like created at. Let's go ahead and just, this is misspelled, we'll do created at. We actually output the date that the created at was submitted. And then we have buttons for going to our edit and buttons for going to our delete, okay? Now, since this is already the edit page, we can actually go ahead and just get rid of these buttons because we don't need a button that goes back to edit, and we don't need a button that goes to delete, all right? We're just already in the edit and we wanna stay here. So we can get rid of these buttons. And just to kind of visualize this, when we're looking at this, we've got our 8 columns over here, and that's what we're seeing here where the text is, and then this is the sidebar. So I'm just suggesting we remove these 2 buttons here, and then we're going to, we can put them under here, or, you know what, we could actually just keep them right here. Let's just keep them right, well, I'm trying to think from a user experience if that would be better or worse. Yeah, let's go ahead and just put it right here. So let's go ahead and we're actually just going to change these buttons. We'll have one say cancel, meaning, oh, I didn't want to edit it, go back to the view. And then we'll have another one that clicks save, and that one's where it's actually going to submit the changed form to the database. So let's just change these 2 buttons here. What we're going to do is come back over to Sublime. You can see we have our HTML link route, and we're linking to post.edit. We want this button on the left to be our cancel button. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to post.show. Okay, by just linking to post.show, that means we're not going to save any sort of changes. We're just going back to the previous view page is what we're doing. And then we can change the content of this to say cancel. All right, and then let's see. The last thing we'll do here is change the color from button primary to button danger, so they know that that's cancel. And then the second button, the button on the right, is going to be our save button. So we're going to change the route from post.destroy to post.update. And then the content of the button to be save changes. We'll do save changes. Let's see. Yep, all this can stay the same. We still need to pass in IDs for both of these, so that stays the same. And then the only difference in class is we want to change the color from red on this button to the right. This is the save button. So it's good to do something like green to show what's going to happen. So we can do button success, and that'll make it a green button. Okay, so now if I save that and come over here and refresh, you can see, refresh. What's going on here? Oh, I'm in the view, that's why. Let's go to edit. There we go. Now when we click edit, you can see that we've got cancel and save changes. So that's exactly what we wanted to do, and it looks good. Now we just need to make this editable so we can change this, and we need to make this editable, and then we're done. So we're actually moving right along. Now, in order to do that, we actually are going to want to open up a form. And we're going to be learning about something new called ModelForm Binding. And what this does is that we can pass in a model object, which is what we did in our controller. So when we went to our controller down here, we create a model object called post, and it just finds a model from the database, stores it in this variable, and then we pass it into the view. So back over here into our edit page, in the view, we already have a model object and it's saved under the variable post. And so what we can do is we can bind the model object onto the form, and Laravel will be smart enough to know that if there's already a value for, say, the title, to automatically fill it into the form, and if there's not, it'll just leave it empty. It also knows to set the form up so that it knows that, say, the title, the field we make for the title belongs to the title column in the database. And that way, when we save it, everything will be really, really easy to save because everything's going to match the database, if that makes sense. I'll show you how easy this is. It works really, really good. Now, in order to actually make this work, you do need to have the Laravel collective form binders set up. You should, if you've been following this series from the beginning, you already have that. However, I believe it's part... okay, so I just looked on YouTube real quick just to see exactly which video it was. It's part number 11, where we actually install something called Laravel Collective, which takes some features that were previously in Laravel 4, but then we removed when we switched to Laravel 5, and puts them back into Laravel 5. You're going to need those form helpers in order to do this next part. So if you haven't done it, you're going to want to go back to part 11 of this series, watch that first, and then come back to this video so that you can pick up right here at this spot. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and assume you already have them, because if you've been following along, you should. And we're going to use the form helpers that we've used in the past. This is how we made forms in the past, with one minor difference. Let's see. What I'm going to do here is we're actually going to open up the form right underneath this row right here. Okay, and then that means we'll close it down here because this is the end of the form. Like that. So then we can close the model right here. Close the form. Now in the past when we made forms, what we did is we did something called form open, if you remember this. And this allowed us to open up a form, and there was some extra cool stuff we inherited by opening a form this way. And so that's what we've done in the past. We're going to make one minor change to this. Instead of doing form open, we're going to do form model. And this tells Laravel that we're opening a form, but we need to connect it to a model that we're passing in. All right, and that's the only difference really, but you're still going to have access to all the form helpers you had when we used form open, when you wanted to automatically generate input fields and stuff like that. You'll have access to all of those exactly the way you did before. This just tells Laravel to automatically try to connect them to the model. So if we're going to do form model, and then down here at the bottom, we can go ahead and do the same thing. We'll do form close. Make sure also that when you're doing these forms that you're using the bang bang, so it's curly brace bang bang instead of the double curly brace right here, because we're not echoing these out. We're just telling it to execute some code. All right, now we do need to pass in some information into the model. We can't just do it with empty braces like this. First thing we need to do is we need to tell it what model that it needs to bind to the form. So we need to pass in the object that we have in the form here that contains the model data, and that's post. Okay, we use that post variable to go out to the database, find a row of information that for the post, and that's going to come back in as an object. Okay, and that's a model object, and so we're telling that this post is a model object. We're telling it to bind to the form. So the first variable we need is, or the first parameter we need is the model object, and then the second one is an array of all of the other options that you want. Okay, and this is the same type of options we had in other forms. So you could select a method, you could select a route to go to, and different things like that. You can add classes and things like that. And so this is an array of all the other options. Instead of doing an array like this, like some people like to, I'm going to keep it clean, and we're just going to do square brackets, which in PHP represents an array. So we'll do a square brackets, and we're going to say route, and that tells it to link to this route. So when someone submits a form, the action that form submits is to this route that we're setting up right now. So we're going to do route, and then in order to do route, because we've got a special type of route, we're going to be submitting them to the update route. Okay, if I come back over to terminal here, we've got post.update, and that's where we need to go, because this is the form where they're going to make changes, and when they click save, we want to go back and update an existing row in the database instead of creating a new row, which is what our post.store creates a new row. Post.update takes an existing row and makes changes to it and saves over the top of it. So we're going to save to post.update, but we do need to also pass in the ID number for the post that we want to update. And so that means when we do this route, we need to pass in two forms of information: the name of the route and the ID number that we want to be passed into the route. So we need to do another array within another array. So we've got route like this, set it equal to an array. The first item in the array will be the name of the route, post.edit. Not post.edit, sorry, post.update. And then the second item in the array will be the variable that we want to attach to that. In this case, it's going to be post ID. Okay, and that's going to pull the ID number from the post right here, and it's going to use that to go to the right page on post update. And then that should be everything that we need. Just make sure your brackets are correct. You should have brackets around this because this is one array, and then you should have brackets here and here, which it surrounds all the other options that we have, which is only one option. Okay, that opens the form. We just use form close to close it, and then in between we can just set up whatever form helpers we need in the middle. So in this case right here, this is our form title. What we can do here is we can actually just do a form text field. So this time we'll use double curly braces because we're echoing out the form. We actually want to display the form here. So we'll just do form text, and this creates a text field. And then our parameters are going to be the name of the text field that we want it to be. And we want to make sure that this name corresponds with the column name in the database. And that's how Laravel knows that, how to match up the items. So you got to make sure that the title, this matches a column in the database called this exact same thing, in other words, title, and then it's going to match whatever's in that column into this form field. So we're going to do title, and then if you want to pass in other options, you can do that as well. Okay, so now in this case, we want the second parameter in a text field is the default value. We're going to let Laravel handle that for us. So we're just going to set it equal to null because we don't want to override what Laravel wants to do, and Laravel should be setting the default value to the current thing in the database. And then the last parameter is in another array, and this is all of our other options. One of those options we want to take advantage of is called class, and we'll set class equal to whatever class we want to have. In this case, we want it to be form control, and then that should create a bootstrap styled form element. All right, this last item here is our body. Let's go ahead and just delete this. We're going to do form and then text area because we want a large text area for them to put text into. And we're going to call this body because that's the name of the column that we have. And then the second item will be an array with our class. Set the class equal, once again, to form control, and we should be set. Let's go ahead and save that and then take a look at it in the web browser. So if we come back over here and we click refresh, it does look like we get an error, and it says route post.update is not defined. So what it's saying is there's no route called post.update, and the error we made here is actually that we don't have a post called post.update. It's called posts plural.update. So if you look over here, it needs to be posts with an S at the end .update. So that's my bad. Let's go ahead and add an S there and save it and try it once more. Let's refresh. We've got another error. So it says array to string conversion in our form builder. So we know it's happening in our form builder. Let's head back over and look at where we might be doing the wrong thing. This might not be the second. Let's see real quick. I think text area, maybe text area has another type of, it might actually be expecting a different type of parameter. So let's take a look here. It does. So let's see. We're supposed to pass in the array of other options needs to be the third parameter and not the second parameter. So that's the error here. The second parameter is supposed to be the size of the form. We're going to go ahead and just put null here so that it's just whatever Bootstrap decides to do. Let's go ahead and just save it and try it again. refresh, and finally it's working. So we got the right thing. There's a little bit of styling issues as far as there's not enough spacing here, but at least it's working. We do show that it is pulling in the name of the blog post into the text field, and it pulls our body into the text area as well. We've got our cancel and our save changes, so we're almost done here. We just want to make a few tweaks to some styling, give these forms a little more space to breathe, and then we'll be done. But you can see that it's pulling it from the database, number 1 here, and automatically putting it into our form. And if we change this, and let's make it like post number 3 up here in the URL, you can see that now it has the other data from here, and we can obviously edit these and change them as needed. Our cancel button should take us back to that post 3, so it takes us back to the view version of the same post we were on. So everything seems to be working really, really good, other than a few styling changes. Let's come back over. If we click our edit button, it brings us back here. We're staying in the same post, so it's working really, really good. The one thing I want to do here is I'm actually going to make this headline a little bit bigger. We're going to take advantage of a bootstrap thing called input large. It just makes a larger input thing, and that'll just make it stand out as a headline. And then we also are going to just add a little space here in between both of these. We could add titles. We could add labels here. Maybe that's the best idea, actually. Let's go ahead and just add labels here, and that should space everything out automatically. So we'll make this input large, and then we'll add a label here for title and a label for body. So let's go ahead and do it. Come back over here, and first things first, we need to add a label up on top. So let's do form label. Okay, and then the label just needs to be, it needs to match the column. So in this case, title. And then we just need to give it the value that we want it to be. So we'll say, we'll just call it title with a colon at the end. And then down here, we'll just do the same thing. We'll do form, label, and we'll do body. And then we'll just put body with a colon at the end like that. Okay, so that's basically all we need. It should style it already. The last thing we want to do here is under this class, let's just put input large in here. I believe it's input LG, and if it doesn't work, we'll come back and take a look at the Bootstrap website. I think input LG will make it a large form field. Okay, I've gone ahead and saved that. Let's come back over here and refresh. Oh, sure enough, it worked. So this is a little bit bigger, and then this is a little smaller, and this is our form area. We still need spacing here. Let's go ahead and just add some spacing and call it good. So let's just, right here, we'll add another class called, well, we actually had a class right here. We'll just say, all right, let's call it form spacing top. This will just give it a little more spacing between the forms on the up above us. So let's save that. Actually, that's not going to work. We need to do it. It needs to be an array. And we need to have it equal to, we need to have class. And then set class equal like that. Save that. Last thing we need to do is we actually need to add that to our CSS. So we need to come over to public, CSS, styles, and then we need to have form spacing top, and we'll just do margin top, and we'll set it equal to, let's try 30 pixels. Save that, come back, refresh. Sure enough, we got a little bit of spacing there. It works perfectly. And now we can cancel or update. So that's basically all we have for this video, guys. We've done ModelForm Binding, which is a really, really handy thing to learn. In the next video, we're going to look at updating, which means that when we submit this form, it's going to our update action, and we need to then work on the update action, which will be mostly controller-based, and save it into the database, and then send appropriate messages as well back to the user so that they know that everything worked the way they expected it to. All right, so stay tuned, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot.